She discovered an incredible secret. The $2 rental turned out to be the man she once rejected. Claire Johnson's heart raced as she stepped inside the dilapidated farmhouse for the first time. The walls whispered stories, and the air held the scent of aged wood mixed with hope. Just $2 a month. Could it be real? As a nurse and a single mother, her life revolved around balancing shifts at the hospital and raising her spirited 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The weight of overdue bills pressed upon her, threatening to crush her fragile sense of stability. Her mind flickered back to the conversation with Mr. Hargrove, the elderly landlord who had been more kind than practical. Character over riches, he'd said, but she whispered an internal question. How far would her character take her before they fell into poverty? Every evening was a grueling repetition of late-night shifts and early-morning chaos, leaving no time for self-reflection or indulgence. Raising Lily alone ensnared Claire in an unyielding routine. Each day the dichotomy of clinical success and her emotional aspirations rendered her empty. The decision to rent the farmhouse felt like a small act of rebellion against a life consumed by necessity, yet looming in her mind was the gnawing fear that she was leading her daughter deeper into despair rather than providing an escape. When Lily unearthed the old attic filled with forgotten artifacts, Claire felt a flicker of curiosity. That was until she uncovered the journal. As she skimmed its pages, her throat tightened. The entries detailed Mr. Hargrove's family history, but intertwined in the ink was a name that sent shivers through her, a name of the boy she turned away in college, Ethan. He was now an accomplished art therapist at the same hospital. Deep down, Claire had always feared his artistic lifestyle was a rejection of stability, and her choices reinforced that belief. Now, realization crashed like a wave. The very man whose vision and passion she had fled from resurfaced in her life. Memories bombarded her, late-night study sessions, laughter over shared dreams, and an ill-timed moment of hesitation that cost her a connection that might have shaped her world. Would she face him if their paths crossed again? Their first encounter at work was suffocating. Claire forced a smile, heart racing, while unspoken words hung between them. Did he pity her? Would he look at her as a struggling nurse, a single mother, rather than the woman he once admired? Awkward pauses marred their conversations, compounded by feelings of guilt and regret, overshadowing potential camaraderie. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos.
And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lily's innocent inquiries about Ethan haunted her. As Claire watched her daughter enthusiastically discuss art at the farmhouse, a mixture of pride and anxiety curled in her gut. Each casual reference to Ethan's work forced Claire's mind into turmoil. Was it really right to pursue a life defined by financial security at the cost of security for her own heart? Questioning her own choices, she grappled with the implications of opening herself once again, risking repetition of past mistakes. With the community art installation looming, she stood at an emotional precipice, curiosity gripping her heart. Ethan's dedication to weaving creativity into healing only amplified her dilemma. She was left wondering how deep her fear of vulnerability ran. What awaited her on the other side of this newfound connection? Would love bloom, or would her fears solidify the walls she had fought so hard to keep intact? The line between love and security blurred, leaving Claire tangled in a web of need and doubt, unsure of the path ahead. The next day felt heavy with anticipation as Claire navigated her routine. The brightness of the sun filtered through the windows, illuminating the once neglected corners of the farmhouse. As she prepared breakfast, the clatter of pans merged with Lily's joyful laughter, a symphony that briefly chased away Claire's spiraling thoughts. But as soon as the warmth faded, the reality of her uncertainty loomed large. Ambition and fear pulled at her, each one vying for dominance. With the art installation approaching, the urge to reconnect with Ethan simmered beneath the surface. He had always possessed an aura of charisma, one that had drawn her in effortlessly during their college days. Yet that same charisma had now become a reminder of the gulf between their lives. While he painted dreams into reality, she was mired in the dull pragmatism of routine. Could she step out of her confines and embrace the artistic world he thrived in? At the hospital, Claire was thrust into the whirlwind of tasks that left scant room for introspection. The familiar sounds, the beeping machines, the hurried footsteps, felt like chains binding her in place. Each interaction with patients was a testament to her capability, yet a quiet voice echoed in her mind, reminding her of the insecurities that stemmed from her choices. Ethan's presence felt almost palpable in the sterile environment of the hospital. Every time she caught a glimpse of him, whether immersed in his artwork or cheerfully conversing with patients, the complexity of their connection nodded further. Did he remember their shared ambitions, the connection that once bound them? Or had time eroded those memories, leaving only shadows of who they were?
The weight of her emotions forced Claire to confront her motivations.
She began asking herself, what do I want? Stability or passion? Those familiar questions twisted together in her mind like the disjointed lines of a half-finished painting. In her quest to shield Lily from hardship, had she also shielded herself from the possibilities of joy and connection? That afternoon, distracted by her thoughts, Claire responded to Lily's eager suggestion of painting together. She hesitated, battling the urge to dismiss it as an impractical venture. But she caught sight of her daughter's hopeful eyes and saw a flicker of the vibrant life she desperately wanted to nurture. It was in that moment of clarity that Claire decided to unlock herself, to embrace creativity and risk the vulnerability it demanded. In the following weeks, Claire found herself pouring into art with Lily, creating pieces that fused their imaginations. Each brushstroke became a lesson in courage, connecting her rekindled hope with her daughter's boundless enthusiasm. The paint splatters on her clothes were badges of honor, separating her from the mold she felt obligated to fit. Claire hadn't realized how long she had stifled the artist within her, a ghost echoing from years past. With every art session, she felt lighter. The weight of doubt began to dissipate. In those moments, armed with colors and canvases, both she and Lily discovered parts of themselves that had felt lost. However, with each small breakthrough came a renewed tension about Ethan. Would she dare to bridge the divide that had separated them for so long? The thought of revealing her journey, the transformation ignited by their shared history, was as exciting as it was daunting. Then came a pivotal moment. Lily, in pure innocence, suggested inviting Ethan to see their art. Claire's heart raced at the prospect, teetering between exhilaration and fear, wondering if she was ready to confront the past that still loomed large in her life. Resonating deep within her was the truth. The moment of risk had arrived. Every brushstroke brought her closer to an unexplored territory, one that could lead to either liberation or heartbreak. Would she seize the opportunity to embrace a reconnection, or would she weave a cocoon around herself, suffocating the possibilities before they had a chance to thrive? Claire pictured Ethan, standing in the farmhouse, judging their creations. Could he see her as more than the girl who had walked away? As she wrestled with the impending decision, the question pierced deeper. What awaited her in this fragile pursuit of connection? The door stood ajar, and now it was time to step through, into the unknown. Claire stood before the large canvas, covered in vibrant hues that mirrored the storm of emotions within her. The brush quivered in her hand, each stroke both an affirmation and a rebellion against the confines she had built for herself.
The sunlight streamed in from the windows, casting playful patterns across the floor, but it only accentuated the shadows lurking in her mind. She felt the walls closing in with the weight of her indecision. Just days ago, the idea of inviting Ethan felt reckless, teetering on the edge of unattainable dreams, but now it seemed like a lifeline. There was a thrill in the air, a whisper of promise that nudged her to push past her doubts. Yet, what would she reveal to him? The art they created together had sparked something within her, an awakening. But would he perceive her as capable, or merely as someone who had failed to follow her own dreams? Lily, oblivious to her mother's turmoil, dashed around the room, energizing Claire with her laughter and innocent excitement. "Can we invite Ethan today, Mom, please?" The urgency in her proposal cut straight to Claire's heart. How could she explain the complexity of their history, the intertwining of love, dreams, and the harsh reality of adult life to her daughter? For days, Claire had allowed herself the luxury of creating alongside Lily, but the looming prospect of facing Ethan brought her back to the tension of their past. She had walked away once, choosing stability over passion, and now the very thought of that choice felt like a betrayal to everything she had allowed herself to experience in recent weeks. She caught her reflection in the window, a woman softened by color, yet hardened by the fears that still clung to her. The contrast struck her. She was not the same Claire who had fled their shared dreams, yet she was terrified of what this newfound strength might reveal. Would he see the evolution in her, or would he only remember the girl who had been too frightened to embrace the creative path? With each passing moment, the question swirled deeper within her. What did she truly want? While her instinct screamed for connection, her past cautioned her to protect herself. This internal war played out against the backdrop of playful giggles and the intoxicating scent of paint. And then, as if guided by an unseen hand,
Claire made her decision. "All right, Lily," she said, her voice steadying. "We'll invite Ethan." A surge of anxiety threatened to overtake her as she reached for her phone. The act of sending the invitation felt monumental. She crafted the message carefully, her fingers trembling over the screen. What would she say? How much of her journey should she share? A note of honesty felt essential if she were to reconnect honestly. Before she could second-guess herself, Claire hit send. It was done. The moment of relief quickly evaporated, replaced by the cold sweat of vulnerability. She couldn't undo it now. The anticipation rose, anxious and intoxicating, as she turned back to her daughter and watched her excitement transform into a hopeful dance around the house. "Mom, do you think you'll like our art?" Lily asked abruptly, her face lit with childlike curiosity.
"I hope so, Lily," Claire replied, distracted by her racing heart. It was no longer just about the art. It was about revealing the parts of herself she had locked away. Would they welcome her exploration of creativity and the rawness of her emotions? As she hung back in the kitchen, glancing at the chaotic splash of colors on their artwork, Claire felt two opposing forces within her, the fear of rejection and the desire for connection. She aimed to wield her vulnerability with courage, hoping that somehow, in this new chapter, she could not only reconnect with Ethan, but also with the essence of who she had once aspired to be. And just as she began to sink into a tentative hope, her phone buzzed. He had responded. With bated breath, Claire opened the message, knowing it was time to confront the ghosts of her past and see if the present had the power to reshape their shared narrative. But the response contained more than she had prepared for. Fresh uncertainty clawed at her, reawakening doubts, and the question loomed. What would she discover about herself in facing Ethan again? What if Ethan saw the art as a desperate attempt at validation? Would he crumble the poetic beauty she found in the colorful chaos they created together? Or worse, what if he brought up their shared past, illuminating her choices in an unforgiving light? Claire quickly realized she had to prepare herself. She needed to dig deeper into her own motivations, confront what she truly wanted, and project an authentic version of herself that didn't shy away from vulnerability. The parallel between reclaiming her art and reclaiming her identity appeared clearer, a journey intertwined with the unveiling of her desires. As the paint dried, she took a moment to pull in a deep breath, seeking clarity amid the swirling storm of emotions. She envisioned the conversation with Ethan. She could approach it with honesty. Acknowledging past mistakes could lay a new foundation. But just as she felt a notion of confidence take hold, her phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't Ethan. It was a notification from an upcoming art exhibit, a competition that dared artists to submit work reflecting personal journeys and transformations. Claire's heartbeat quickened. This could be her opportunity to not only showcase her art, but delve profoundly into her evolution as a person. "Mom, let's make even more art for Ethan," Lily shouted, snapping her back to the present. With a new purpose igniting within her, Claire smiled. "Yes, we will, but I have something bigger in mind too," she said, enthusiasm threading her voice. Excitement flooded her as she planned how she could blend her desires for both her art and a renewed relationship with Ethan. She could set the stage for a multifaceted conversation, a way to blend their past with hopeful brand new canvases, and perhaps open doors to revelations about herself she had yet to discover. But as she scribbled new ideas down on a scrap of paper, a lingering question returned to haunt her thoughts. What if her artistic courage stirred not just her evolving self, but the very essence of their complicated history? Would her journey towards unveiling her vulnerability be met with understanding, or would the shadows of doubt cloud everything she had set in motion? This was just the beginning. She could feel it like a pulsating heartbeat behind each color on her canvas, but the crunch of the moment ahead loomed closer. Would the unveiling lead to acceptance or regret? Claire's heart raced as she stared at the blank canvas in front of her. The excitement about participating in the exhibit clashed with her rising apprehension. Each brushstroke reminded her of the fragility of her artistic journey. This was about more than paint and canvases. This was about her life, her choices, and the possibility of reconnecting with Ethan. As she immersed herself in creating, the colors began to tell a story of growth, healing, and transformation. While Lily added splashes of bright pink and sunshine yellow to their collective creation, Claire chose deeper hues that resonated with her. Each choice was deliberate. The blues were introspective, the reds passionate, yet the greens embodied hope. "Mom, look!" Lily exclaimed, proudly presenting her masterpiece. Claire couldn't help but smile, knowing how much of Lily's joy echoed her own. The pure delight radiating from her daughter pushed Claire to dig deeper within herself.
What if her art could reflect not only her past challenges, but also her aspirations? It was a revelation that coursed through her like a jolt of electricity. She had never given herself the freedom to create something that encapsulated her entire journey. The artistic block she'd fought through mirrored the emotional barricades she had erected over the years: fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of reconciliation. "Okay, let's do this," she mumbled, both to Lily and herself. A light turned on in Claire's mind. She could use this opportunity to confront her emotional history head-on. Later that night, with the sun setting and the air cooling, Claire found herself alone, painting furiously. The studio was a sanctuary, and with each stroke, she faced encounters from her past, the mistakes, the regrets, but also the resilience that had brought her here. The brush became an extension of her thoughts, and she articulated her fears in bold colors and sweeping strokes. She visualized Ethan's face, the moments they'd shared, the laughter, but also the complexity of their separation. Could this art convey both the weight of past decisions and the light of new hope? Claire paused, the paintbrush hovering in the air, contemplating a decision that contained the potential to change everything. She could incorporate pieces of their shared history into her work, a puzzle made from their fragmented relationship. This would not be an act of desperation. It would be a declaration of her journey, a challenge to confront head-on what had once seemed insurmountable. Yet, as she began to layer in the personal elements, nagging doubts crept back into her consciousness. What if Ethan perceived this as an emotional overload? What if it backfired? Was she inviting him into vulnerability just to see him turn away? Breathing heavily, Claire stepped back from the canvas, observing it from a distance. There was beauty in her vulnerability. There was strength in admitting the truth of her emotions, even the messy parts. This artistic revelation wasn't just about attracting Ethan's attention. It was about crafting a narrative that fulfilled her. In transforming her pain into art, she could construct something profoundly personal that reflected her evolution. The following day, she would draft her submission for the exhibit. As she jotted down notes, a small voice within nudged her to remember. Facing the past didn't exclude the potential for a brighter future.
She could embrace embarrassment and regret while forging new pathways in her life. And then, the sharp ping of her phone startled her. It was a message from Ethan asking if they could meet soon to discuss the details of the visit. Claire felt her heart swing back into that familiar whirlpool of emotions. Before she could overthink it, she typed out a response. "Yes, I'm ready. Let's meet. I have a lot to share." Her finger hovered over the send button for a moment, battling the instinct to hesitate. This was the moment when uncertainty met resolve. Would she hide behind her insecurities, or reveal the strength she had uncovered in both her work and spirit? With a determined breath, Claire pressed send, feeling the weight of the decision settle on her like a cloak. Tomorrow would hold challenges, but now she was no longer merely an artist. She was a woman ready to confront her past and embrace all her complexities. The moment was nearing. Could she redefine both her art and her relationship with Ethan? Would this encounter illuminate her path forward, or would it blind her with its intensity? Claire awoke the next morning with the sunlight pouring through her studio window, illuminating the remnants of her nocturnal creativity scattered across the room. The exhilaration from the night before surged within her, a potent mix of hope and fear. Today was the day she'd face Ethan, not just as a figure from her past, but as part of the intricate narrative she was weaving into her art. As she prepared for their meeting, uncertainty curled around her thoughts like tendrils of smoke. What would she reveal? How much of her raw emotions would she lay bare? She was determined to embrace vulnerability, yet the prospect still sent shivers down her spine. Each moment of hesitation felt like a step away from the woman she wanted to become, a woman who no longer shied away from authenticity. After a quick breakfast with Lily, who chatted animatedly about her own hopes for her art, Claire grabbed her portfolio filled with sketches and inspiration for her exhibit. Every piece showcased her struggle, but today would be different. Among them, she intended to include a piece dedicated to Ethan, reflecting their shared past and the possibility of a future once more intertwined. Arriving at the cafe where they agreed to meet, the ambiance felt almost electric. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the whir of hushed conversations and laughter, creating a warm distraction from her impending conversation. Claire chose a table in a quiet corner, ordering an herbal tea to calm her nerves. As she waited, her mind spiraled. Would Ethan see the depth of her commitment to change, or would he retread old patterns of misunderstanding? When Ethan arrived, the familiar rush of emotions welled within her, but this time she met him with intention.
He seemed different too, or perhaps it was she who had changed.
Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, all the past hurt evaporated into the air between them. "Hey," he greeted, a tentative smile playing on his lips. "Hey," Claire replied, her own uncertainty perched on the edge of her voice. Conversation flowed naturally at first, ebbing and flowing like the tides. They talked about their lives since their split, Ethan's recent promotions at work, Claire's art journey, and for a while they seemed to dance over the surface of deeper waters. And though Claire felt the urge to dig deeper, to let him see the tumult inside her, she hesitated. Then it happened. As Ethan casually inquired about her forthcoming exhibit, the question hung in the air, thick with unspoken tension. This was the moment she had prepared for, the juncture where she would reveal the transformation art had catalyzed in her life. "I want to share something personal with you," Claire started, her voice trembling slightly. She paused, her heart pounding. The memories of laughter and pain surged like a wave threatening to drown her. "I'm not afraid anymore. My art isn't just for others, it's for me too. I wanted to tell the story of who I've become." As Claire's words spilled out, recounting her struggles with identity and creativity, she felt that familiar juxtaposition of vulnerability and strength. Ethan listened, his expression shifting from curiosity to contemplation. She laid bare the conflicts that had once held her back, her fears of failure and rejection, but how she had gradually discovered the value of embracing those very fears. Yet there was still a knot in her stomach. What if this revelation pushed him away rather than draw him closer? The stakes felt impossibly high at that moment, but Claire also recognized within herself a newfound resilience. She wasn't solely dependent on Ethan's approval for her happiness. As their conversation deepened, the path of truth dove into a whirlpool of shared emotions, nostalgia, and hesitation. The moment stretched as each of them processed the layers of a relationship that had once felt irreparable. Finally, Claire broached the very heart of her feelings. "I want to weave our shared history into my art, not as a plea for reconciliation, but as a way to reclaim my narrative, a part of my journey that I want to acknowledge fully." Ethan's gaze turned serious, his brows knitting together. "Claire, I appreciate that you're sharing this, but what if—" His words lingered, hanging precariously in the air, leaving Claire with the realization that the most profound confrontations often held the potential for both connection and conflict. She could sense that their discussion was leading somewhere significant, somewhere that could either illuminate their paths or cast them into shadow. Before she could delve into the implications of his unfinished thought, her phone buzzed violently on the table, jolting both of them from the intensity of the moment. "Sorry, I need to check this," Claire said, feeling the flickers of anxiety return. As she glanced at the screen, it dawned on her that this message could change everything once more. "Who is it?" Ethan asked, his tone a curious mixture of concern and interest. Claire's heart pounded as she read the notification, knowing full well that this would be a turning point, not just for herself, but for both of them. An opportunity awaited, and clarity was just around the corner, but at what personal cost to her evolving path? "How do I navigate this?" she questioned silently, caught between the fog of uncertainty and the allure of discovery. The stakes had never felt higher, and she realized she stood at the precipice of something monumental. Would she embrace this new revelation, or would shadows of the past pull her back into familiar terrain? The message on Claire's phone felt like a jolt of electricity coursing through her veins. It was from a gallery she had submitted her work to weeks ago, an opportunity she had hesitated to pursue fully. Her fingers trembled slightly as she tapped the notification, revealing an invitation to have her art featured in a prominent exhibit. The sense of achievement washed over her, but alongside that came a wave of anxiety. Was she ready for this, especially now that she was reconnecting with Ethan? "Good news?" Ethan's voice sliced through her thoughts. The concern etched on his face mirrored the inner turmoil she felt. "An exhibit. I think they want to showcase my work," she replied, a cautious smile creeping onto her lips. "That's amazing, Claire. You've worked hard for this," Ethan responded, though his expression held traces of uncertainty. "But what about what we were discussing? Is this still the right time?"
The question hung heavily in the space between them. Claire felt the weight of her decision pressing against her chest. It feels right, but I'm not sure how to balance all of it. This could change everything, and I need to be clear about what I want. Ethan visibly swallowed. He listened intently, but his brow furrowed with concern. This was a moment where vulnerability and ambition collided, leading her deeper into the complex layers of her feelings for him. Taking a breath, Claire decided to forge ahead. I want to celebrate this opportunity, but it's also a chance to explore my past with you. They want a piece that reflects my journey, and you've been such a significant part of it. His expression softened slightly, but still Claire could sense him holding back. She could feel the tension crackling in the air, the delicate threads of their connection weaving tighter. This moment was both an invitation to deep honesty and a potential retreat into fear. Just then, a waiter approached, delivering her tea with a small smile.
As he left, Claire seized the opportunity to steer the conversation toward the depth she had been craving. Ethan, let's not skirt around the edges. You mean a lot to me. This isn't just an art show. It's about reclaiming parts of me that I thought were lost, she said, her voice steady, a newfound resolve underpinning her words. I need to share this journey with you, and I want to know how you feel about it. Ethan's gaze shifted, searching her face for sincerity. I appreciate that, Claire, but are you sure you're ready to bring our past into your art? What if it doesn't work out the way you hope? His concerns echoed in her mind, igniting flashes of doubt, but for every flicker of fear, she felt the flame of determination burning brighter within her. This is the chance to confront the shadows rather than let them dictate my narrative, Claire answered, her conviction free from hesitation. I'm not afraid to confront both the beauty and the pain of our history. The room seemed to shrink around them, the chatter fading as they stood on a tightrope of honesty. Claire's heart raced. Was she truly prepared to include their intertwined past in a way she had previously shied away from? The thought, initially terrifying, began to bloom with a strange comfort. Claire realized that embodying her truth through her art could bridge the gap between their past and what lay ahead. I want to fight for this show, like I'm fighting for us, she continued, her courage making her words resonate. But I need your support to feel anchored while I explore this. Ethan's eyes narrowed as a contemplative expression crossed his face, weighing her words against his own memories. You're asking a lot, Claire. I'm not the same person either, but I guess at some level I've always been aware of how profound this connection is. A siren call of hope arose in the pit of Claire's stomach. They were navigating the unknown together, the path laden with the potential for confrontation and transformation. As Ethan reached for her hand, an easy gesture laden with decades of distance and intimacy, Claire felt the warmth of resolve spiraling within her. She longed to harness this energy, to fuel her art and herself in a way that embraced the authenticity she had spent too long denying. Then, the unthinkable happened. Claire's phone buzzed again, breaking the moment between them. This time, a familiar name flashed across the screen, someone she had not thought about in ages, someone whose return could tip the balance of her gains and losses. A call from Matt? Ethan's voice had a curious edge, but Claire was too mesmerized by the implications of both the call and their conversation. Her heart raced once more, the stakes rising higher than ever before. Would she answer and potentially shatter this fragile connection she had just begun to forge with Ethan? Now, standing at the crossroads of revelation and choice, she felt the weight of the past pressing down upon her like a storm. How would she respond? In that moment, Claire understood she was not only facing her past, but the essence of who she was becoming. As the phone rang on, she realized the true test of her transformation was at hand. Would she embrace the risk, or fall back into the patterns that once held her captive? With a deep breath, Claire prepared for whatever choice lay before her, acutely aware that her next decision could alter the course of her life and her art. Claire's fingers lingered over her phone, conflicted and electric with anticipation. The ringing felt like an urgent pulse, drawing her focus away from Ethan and anchoring her in a past that seemed insistent on re-entering her life. Could she let Matt back into her sphere when she was just regaining her footing? Ethan's concern morphed into palpable worry. "Are you going to answer it?" he asked, his voice tight with uncertainty. The question hung in the air like a thief, casting shadows on the light of her recent revelations. The prospect of reconnecting with Matt, with all its history and unprocessed emotions, threatened to twist her narrative into something she had fought so hard to redefine. However, a small ember of curiosity flickered within her. What could he possibly want after all this time? "Maybe I should," she said, struggling against the tide of instinct that told her to silence the ringing. It was as if her mind was weighing options in a critical meeting where every number counted. "Claire," Ethan interjected, his tone a mix of urgency and caution, "just remember, whatever you decide, But don't lose sight of what you've worked for. That invitation is a huge stepping stone. It struck her then how important his support was. Archery, her art, the connections she was now willing to explore, they all seemed woven with threads he had spun alongside her. As she held Ethan's gaze, the unease began to wane, replaced by the courage of newfound resolve. Maybe this is exactly what I need, she said, louder now, deciding on the fly. Ethan's brow flickered as he absorbed her words. So you believe confronting him will help you grow? Yes. The answer surged from the depths of her conviction. But alongside it came a fleeting doubt. Was she truly ready to embrace the fragments of her life she had once pieced together? With shaking hands, she pressed accept. The familiar voice on the other end sent ripples through her body, igniting a mixture of nostalgia and apprehension. Claire, it's been a while, Matt said, his tone smooth yet hesitant. Yeah, it has, Claire replied, unsure of her footing in this dance of the past. A part of her wondered if reconnecting with him was an act of courage or recklessness. I heard about the exhibit. Congrats.
You deserve the recognition, he said, as if the years melted away in the warmth of his compliment. Thanks, she managed, looking at Ethan, who had retreated slightly into the background, his expression shifting from concern to cautious interest. If it's all right, I'd like to meet up and talk, Matt suggested, his voice firm but friendly, as if they were catching up after a long absence. I have some thoughts about your work, and maybe us? The air thickened with tension, her heart thrumming loudly in response to the unsaid implications of his words. Here was the man who had once embodied both promise and disappointment, re-emerging with the invitation to revisit an old chapter that she had locked away. I need time to think about that, she replied, trying to maintain some distance, though the longing for closure battled within her. The moment felt surreal, like the precise junction of two divergent paths, yet a flicker of excitement pulsed through her. Perhaps confronting Matt would reside alongside her burgeoning identity as an artist in person. Ethan stood up gently, his presence a solid comfort. Hey, you okay? He asked, supporting her through the disjointed conversation. Yes, she replied, the determination palpable in her voice as he maneuvered to steady herself. I need to explore this. Just remember what's at stake, Ethan cautioned, his eyes narrowing slightly, revealing concern mingled with admiration for her growing autonomy. You shape your own narrative. Claire nodded, absorbing the weight of his words, while a surge of defiance bubbled within her, not only to redefine her relationship with art, but all her connections, including this unexpected conversation with Matt. As the call ended, a wave of clarity washed over her, invigorating her creative spirit. Navigating the complexities of past relationships brought a unique depth to her work, one that spoke to the resilience of growth and transformation. Ethan moved closer, searching Claire's expression for assurance. What happens now? Are you going to meet him? Yes, she replied resolutely. The decision began to crystallize in her mind. Not just for Matt, but for myself. I need to understand where I've been to define where I'm headed. They exchanged a look charged with anticipation, a budding understanding between them. There was a shared sense that this was more than just a personal journey. It was a deeper exploration of what it meant to truly connect or disconnect with the past. Claire could feel the flickering flame of creativity igniting within her. This was her pathway forward, laden with discoveries that promised to uncover her untold stories. But little did she know, vulnerability came with costs. Interlacings of love, regret, and unfinished business would soon collide, challenging everything she thought she was prepared for. As the day loomed on, Claire stood at the edge of her decision, a moment teetering on the edge of upheaval. Would embracing the past lead to the clarity she sought, or would it fracture the delicate bond she was forming with Ethan? The next chapter awaited, shrouded in uncertainty, daring her to take the plunge into the depths of her own story. Claire sat in the small cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the soft chatter of other patrons. The sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over her artfully chosen sketchbook, the pages still blank but whispering with potential. She felt a strange blend of anticipation and dread as she waited for Matt. Every tick of the clock seemed to amplify the weight of her decision to explore the remnants of a past that still echoed in her consciousness. When the bell above the door chimed, Claire's heart raced. Matt walked in, and time seemed to draw out, reshaping their histories into a fragile present. He looked much the same, confident smile, easy posture, but there was something unsettling in the way his presence filled the space between them. It was as if the air crackled with unspoken tensions. "Hey," Matt greeted, his voice smooth yet edged with uncertainty. "Thanks for agreeing to meet." "Of course," Claire said, forcing herself to soften the lines of her own guardedness. She gestured to the seat across from her, willing herself to focus on the moment rather than the ghosts of their shared past. They exchanged small talk, Matt complimenting her recent work, and Claire responded with measured pride. Yet beneath the surface, she felt layers of their old dynamics resurfacing, familiar patterns of intimacy and distance battling within her. As the conversation turned serious, Matt leaned in slightly, his expression shifting to one she remembered all too well, a mixture of vulnerability and charm. "I wanted to talk about us, about what we had." Claire felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Was he here for closure, or to rekindle something that had long been extinguished? "I thought we needed distance to move forward," she replied carefully, trying to keep her emotions at bay. "I know," he said, a hint of regret coloring his words, "but I've needed to explore some things about myself too. I've missed you, Claire, and I see how far you've come. It's inspiring." "You're not the only one who's changed, Matt," she said, her voice steady. "I've been working hard to carve out a new identity in my art and my life, one that doesn't revolve around what we had." A flicker of frustration crossed his face. "It's not just about the past, it's about understanding what could have been. I'm a different person too. I want to be a part of your life again." Claire felt an unsettling wave of emotion sweep over her. Did she want Matt back in her life, or was this an echo of longing from days gone by? The stark contrast between who she was now and who she had been with him sent her thoughts spiraling. "Matt, I appreciate that you're reaching out, but my priority right now is my growth as an artist and a person."
"I need to focus on my path." She paused, her heart pounding as she considered the implications of her words. This was a moment of truth, demanding she confront not only him, but herself. Would she allow the allure of their shared history to pull her back into a rhythm that could disrupt her emerging narrative? Matt leaned back, clearly taken aback. "I get it, but that doesn't mean we can't still talk about what we had, about what it could mean now." She inhaled deeply, fighting the urge to explore those sliding doors of what if. "You must understand, reconciling with our past doesn't mean we should dive back into it. I've built something new." "Something new?" he echoed, a mix of incredulity and challenge in his tone. "Is that all this is? Just art and moving on? What about the pieces of us still lingering?" Claire hesitated. His words knocked against the structure of her fortified resolve. Did she believe her artistry was enough to fill the void of their shared experiences? "Art has been my refuge," she finally said, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her voice. "It has pushed me to confront my fears, to express what remains unresolved." Her admission hung in the air, a naked truth. It opened a fissure not only in her but in Matt's demeanor too. She saw it, a flash of recognition. "Maybe," he ventured cautiously, "that's why we should explore this together." Claire's heart pounded with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. Could revisiting their past provide insights that her art had yet to unveil? Or would it drag her down the emotional abyss she had fought to climb out from? The space between them felt electric, charged with possibilities and uncharted territories, a blend of unease and intrigue, echoing the complexity of her evolving identity. "Let me think about it," she said, her voice steadying with resolve. She knew she was on the brink of a significant decision. Perhaps some exploration was necessary, but under her terms. As the conversation shifted into deeper, murkier waters, Claire was compelled to confront one of the greatest questions of her life. What did she truly want, and how far was she willing to go to find it? The moment of truth loomed, ready to unravel all she thought she understood about herself, her past, and the canvas of her future. Would she find clarity in confronting the echoes of Matt, or succumb to the fear of losing the hard-earned ground she had gained? The path before her twisted and turned, veiled in uncertainty, daring her to take the next step into the unknown. Claire stood at the threshold of transformation, gazing into the future she had hesitated to embrace. The air was thick with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Her recent conversations with Ethan and Matt churned in her mind, intertwining with the creative journey she had embarked upon. Today marked a crucial moment of reckoning. With her art exhibit fast approaching, Claire had put countless hours into sculpting her narrative through brushstrokes. Each piece depicted not only her growth, but also the intertwined histories that shaped her identity.
Today, she prepared for a final showcase rehearsal with Ethan, where she would unveil a piece dedicated to their complex past. This artwork symbolized more than just her affection for him. It encapsulated the courage it took to confront their shared experiences. As she entered the gallery space, a wave of warmth washed over her. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Basking in the glow of her creations, Claire felt an exhilarating mix of pride and vulnerability. This moment wasn't solely about public recognition. It was a testament to her individual journey and resilience. When Ethan arrived, admiration sparkled in his eyes as he took in the array of artworks. "Claire, this is incredible. You've transformed your stories into something profound," he commented, genuine pride lacing his tone. His recognition ignited a flame of confidence within her. "Thank you," Claire replied, gazing at the painting titled The Intersection. It depicted a bridge of colors merging into one vibrant piece, a metaphor for their journey together. "This piece, especially, represents how I've evolved since we drifted apart. It's about relinquishing the myths I held onto from our past." Ethan examined the painting thoughtfully, his expression shifting from admiration to understanding. "I see that, but I also sense there's a layer of vulnerability you're willing to confront, isn't there?" Claire nodded, steeling herself for the emotional resonance of honesty. "Yes, it's easy to romanticize what we had, but it was often riddled with doubts that stifled my growth. I want to acknowledge our history, but I also want to liberate myself from the constraints that held me back." Ethan's eyes softened with warmth. "That takes incredible strength. To face those uncertainties is more powerful than hiding from them." In that moment, surrounded by her creations and empowered by Ethan's understanding, Claire experienced a sense of release. She had finally stepped into her identity, not just as an artist, but as a woman reclaiming her narrative. The day of the exhibit arrived, and the vibrant energy of the crowd enveloped her as people admired her artwork, strangers and friends alike. Each compliment resonated through her, reaffirming that her creative leap had mattered. As the evening progressed, anticipation built for her speech, the moment where she would unwrap the essence of her journey for all to hear. When her turn came, Claire stood before the crowd, her heart pounding yet steady. "Thank you for being here," she began, projecting confidence. "This exhibition embodies a transformation, one that reflects not only my individual journey, but also the complexities of relationships that shape us." With each word, she revealed the raw truths behind her creations, how love, loss, and rediscovery ignited her artistic spirit. She spoke about Ethan, their past, and the intricate journey of bridging gaps in understanding. As she spoke, Claire felt the gravity of self-acceptance wash over her like a warm tide. The vulnerability she had feared transformed into empowerment. The crowd listened intently, drawn in by her authenticity. In those moments, she experienced liberation. Ethan's presence anchored her, a testament to the meaningful connection they were nurturing. The applause that erupted when she concluded felt like an affirmation of her evolution, proving that embracing vulnerability opened doors to profound growth. In the aftermath of the exhibit, as the dust settled, Claire found herself able to draw closer to her truths. She felt the weight of past insecurities lift, replaced with a solid confidence in her abilities as both an artist and a mother. Ethan's support solidified a newfound footing in their relationship as they ventured deeper into meaningful dialogues, acknowledging their shared past while laying foundational stones for something new. Claire reflected on the journey she had traversed. The moment at the cafe with Matt lingered, but reframed itself through the empowerment of her personal growth. She could embrace connections without losing sight of herself. With a sense of belonging radiating within her, Claire picked up her brush the following morning, poised to create new pieces that would reflect the uncharted territories she planned to explore. Taking a deep breath, she smiled, marking the beginning of a new chapter with tangible purpose. No longer just an artist reclaiming lost ground, Claire was now a confident, expressive woman crafting her path, unafraid to delve into raw emotions. Through her art, she had conquered an internal battlefield, transforming vulnerability into vibrant masterpieces that represented her, the whole of her, flawed yet magnificent. The triumph of her personal achievement and the recognition from her peers solidified her place, not just as an artist, but as a force to be reckoned with. At last, Claire understood that the canvas of life was never truly blank. It was filled with the vibrant hues of unyielding hope, strength, and connection. Now it was your turn. You need to subscribe now to our channel and not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion.
Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering resolution.